In less than a week, Illinois voters heading to the polls if they haven't already voted early, and big on the ticket is who is going to be the nominee for each party to fill the seat being vacated by U.S. Senator Dick Durbin. Welcome back. It is the Center Square Daily. I'm Greg Bishop, your host, and let's put Illinois in focus. And joining us here for Illinois in Focus is Pamela Denise Long. She's one of 6 Republican candidates vying for the GOP nomination. Pamela, thanks for taking time with us today. And let's just start off with how you guys are feeling heading into the home stretch here. The election is Tuesday.
Yeah, it's good to see you again. And it's poetic because I believe you were my first major media stop when I launched my campaign back in May. And we're feeling good. We're resonating everywhere we land, although there are some stakeholders, NBC5 in Chicago, who's iced us out. And so we've filed an FCC complaint about that.
Big issues you're hearing from potential constituents across the states when it comes to how the federal government impacts the land of Lincoln.
Yeah. So what are we hearing? What we're hearing is that we're not seeing enough representation. What we're hearing is people seeing sold out. What we're hearing is that people are hopeful that my voice, right, will go to Washington, D.C. and actually represent the people because I've been presenting the policies that I'm going to implement within 90 days. They're upset that people aren't standing on what needs to be done in terms of protecting women and girls, in terms of outing people who've abused their power, in terms of, funding foreign wars and the like. We want to see Americans first, and we're here for it. It's about time.
Pamela, talk a bit about some of those headlines we're seeing right now, right? If you're in the U.S. Senate, you've got, your ability to sound off on, say, the conflict and the military operations over in Iran. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh my gosh. I don't like regime change. I think I've talked about that a bit before. I think that we are curating enemies. I'm concerned that there are more casualties from American troops than has been expressed. I'm concerned that this could be another forever war. I need to see an exit strategy. And, we should hope to see that before I'm elected, right? We need to see that post haste so we know how we're going to get out of that. And so what I'm hearing from people is that they're afraid. And what I'm hearing from soldiers also who are vets are that they're concerned that this could be a never ending war.
Pamela Denise Long, one of the Republicans running for the Republican nomination for U.S. Senate with us here. And another big issue that's in the headlines, voter ID and a mandate that the Trump administration is putting on Congress, wanting them to pass the Save America Act. But the U.S. Senate is where it's at, and there could be some issues with the filibuster. First, what are your thoughts on the filibuster? And then let's talk a little bit about voter ID.
Yeah, so I've expressed before that the filibuster is baked into the congressional processes because it is the voice of the minority. It is what helps the U.S. Senate be more deliberative in the things that we implement. I would say I've always supported voter ID. One of my first articles for Newsweek is that voter ID is patriotic. I don't know a Black American, despite what liberals say, who doesn't have an ID, and certainly there are processes in which we could help folks get an ID. One of the things that I've expressed to congressional stakeholders is I want to make sure that election integrity also ensures that every eligible American citizen is able to vote. And we should not have people who are non-citizens determining any aspect of our legislation or executive oversight at local, state, nor federal level.
Pamela, as a Black woman in Republican politics, what do you feel is going to be the Black voters' impact on this U.S. Senate campaign, especially considering the field that you've seen on the Democrat side?
Yeah, so Black Americans are breaking up with the Democratic Party, and I'm here for that as well. Also one of the articles that I wrote for Newsweek. But what I'm also knowing about the Black American community, since I've done so much work in that community, including in Chicago, is that what they're looking for is people who are advocating for their interests. They're looking for authentic relationship. We can't win the general election without also digging into 20 to 30% of Cook County, and that's going to have to include Black Americans. And so what I've called Republicans to do over the years is to actually bring their A game and understand the Black community. And I believe that I am the candidate on this side of the aisle who has those relationships and has that understanding and also has the policies that Black Americans are resonating with right now.
In the U.S. Senate, you'll be dealing with a lot of federal policies. You may be dealing with things that would impact Illinois directly. I know the Trump administration's had some executive orders out there to withhold federal funds from states and jurisdictions that have no cash bail, for instance. Is that something that you would support in withholding funds from a state like Illinois to have some policy changes on an issue like public safety?
Yeah, so public safety certainly can raise to the federal level. I think I understand the inequities, if you will, that people were trying to correct by the no cash bail, but they overshot the target by a long shot when you have people who've been arrested 30 plus times, including for violent crimes, and they're released without bail. What they wanted to do is make sure that people that innocent before proven guilty, right, is implemented. And so we need to definitely take a look at what that looks like. I'm not sure about withholding funds for that reason, but I think we need to look at the impact, investigate the impact of what the Safety Act has done and what no cash bail has done around the country and decide what's the best course to go in fixing that, both the inequities and making sure that we're on target.
Another criticism I hear about the interplay between a state like Illinois and the federal coffers is the state of Illinois is a giver state. I've seen, Democrats for years talk about how they need to capture more federal dollars to bring back to Illinois. Is that a concern of yours, that Illinoisans pay more in federal income tax than the state gets back? And how do you go about getting and securing more of those federal tax dollars for the land of Lincoln?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that because I've been in conversation with some whistleblowers, if you will, that are talking about the ways in which the state has left money on the table. We're talking billions of dollars simply by not doing their job and not completing paperwork because, I don't know, people aren't watching. There's no DOGE, there's no efficiency and effectiveness. So we want to make sure that the state of Illinois is held accountable for its reliance upon tax dollars when it's not taking advantage of the grant money and other discretionary funding that's been available to it.
And Pamela, one thing I've heard criticism about your candidacy, people are characterizing it as your push for reparations. Do you want to take a moment to clarify what you're talking about in that conversation?
Yeah, so of course, reparations is the R word, right? It's people's own understanding of what it is. I'm not running on reparations. However, I support any American's First Amendment right to hold the government accountable, whether it be J6ers who were literally let into the Capitol, but the Department of Justice was weaponized against them, whether it be American citizens who are holding the government accountable for the ways they've replaced us all via mass immigration, both legal and illegal. What I am proposing, to be correct, is that we sunset minority spending by redirecting half of those funds to the people it was originally designed for. Currently, a minority is anyone who's not a straight white Christian male. So a descendant of an enslaver can come over here and code as Black and be a minority. A Chinese man can come over here, a gay man can be a minority. I think it's wrong. I think it's wasteful. And I think the way we sunset that is to meet original intent. And in about 40 to 50 years, based on economic projections, we can save $24 trillion and settle the issue.
All right. Well, Pamela, obviously, we've got just a handful of days before the March 17th primary. Here it is, the kind of opportunity for you to set yourself apart from the other 5 candidates that are on the ballot. What makes Pamela Denise Long the right choice?
Yeah, I'm the right choice because I have 30 years of experience across the areas that the U.S. Senate will write legislation for, as well as investigate to make sure that Americans' rights are being preserved and protected. We've had lawyers running our system for a really long time now, and look at where we are. In addition to that, antitrust law, for example, as one of my competitors talks about, is something that happens within the executive branch, not the legislative branch. We already have antitrust laws, and what we need is those who have the broad experience to investigate those things. I have the support that we're going to need in Cook County in order to win the general. And I think what this March 17th primary comes down to is who can win the general, who has the voice and message and policies that are going to deliver. I'm endorsed by Veterans for America First, and we'll have legislation for that. I'm also endorsed by Peoria County Republican Central Committee. I'd ask people to take a look at my website at longforsenate2026.com and make the wise decision so that we can win this come November, and we can make Illinois a model of what it means to unite a state and thus unite a nation.
Well, Pamela Denise Long, one of the 6 candidates for the Republicans on the March 17th ballot. Greatly appreciate you taking the time with us, and we'll talk again soon.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And that's it for the Center Square Daily. From my studios in Central Illinois, I'm Greg Bishop. Join us back here Thursday for more stories impacting you, the taxpayer, from across the country, only with the Center Square Daily.